He's known as the Palestinian Mandela. Political leader Marwan Barghouti was arrested by Israeli military forces in 2002 and has been in prison ever since. His son, Arab Barghouthi, was just 11 years old when his father was detained. Today, he speaks to me here on Roundtable about his struggle for justice. Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, Marwan Barghouti is the Palestinian people's top choice to become their leader. But for the past 23 years, he has been in an Israeli prison. From behind bars, he has continued to galvanise support for the Palestinian cause.
He's often compared to South Africa's anti-apartheid activist and former president Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for 27 years. Marwan Barghouti, a Fatah leader and former politician, has suffered a similar fate. He spent more than 2 decades behind Israeli bars, yet remains one of the most popular and unifying figures in Palestinian politics, even touted as a potential successor to President Mahmoud Abbas.
I am calling on the great Palestinian people for unity, to be together to establish a national unity government, to continue with the popular, non-violent resistance in order to end the occupation.
Arrested during the Second Intifada in 2002, he was handed 5 life sentences by an Israeli court on charges of orchestrating attacks, charges he has never recognized. Barely seen since his imprisonment, in September last year, Palestinian prisoner support groups claimed he was brutally assaulted by Israeli officials while he was in solitary confinement. Earlier this year, the world glimpsed a frail Barghouti after Israeli Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir posted a video of him taunting the political prisoner, sparking outrage.
Whoever messes with the people of Israel, whoever murders our children, whoever murders our women, we will obliterate them.
His case reflects a broader reality. At the end of December 2024, Israel's prison service was holding 9,619 Palestinians on what it defined as security grounds, including 2,216 from Gaza. Another 1,705 Palestinians were in custody for being in Israel without permits. For many Palestinians, Barghouti's continued detention is more than personal. It symbolizes a struggle for freedom still unfinished, and acts as a symbol of their resilience.
Well, I'm delighted to say I can now speak to Marwan Barghouti's son, Arab Barghouti, who joins us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Arab, you're very welcome to this roundtable. I want to begin by talking about your father's status as what has been described as the world's most important prisoner. Just remind our viewers on Roundtable why your father is such a key figure. I've heard him described as a legend of Palestine. Just remind our viewers why that is.
Well, I think that my father's story is a Palestinian story. He's someone who grew up in under the occupation, under the military occupation. He's seen what the brutal occupation has brought to this land. And he started struggling from a very young age, struggling for the Palestinian freedom and independence. And he got imprisoned at the age of 15 the first time, and 50 years ago he is still in prison. He's someone who spent 30 years of his life in prison, 7 years in exile. He sacrificed a lot, but at the same time that did not stop him from being a very well-educated person. He holds a master's degree in international relations. He holds a PhD in political science. He is an educator. He has graduated hundreds and hundreds of master's and bachelor's degrees from inside prison. And at the same time, he played his political role because he's still a parliament member. He's still a central committee member of Fatah. And he initiated the prisoners' document, which is a unifying document that unified all Palestinian factions. This is why the Palestinian people are still attached to him.
Arab, tell me, your father is a very charismatic man. He has credibility. He is extremely popular. Is that everything that Israel feels threatened by in a Palestinian?
Yes, I think that the Israeli current government is not obviously interested in any solutions, political solutions, or any other solutions. They're only interested in stealing more and more and dominating more and more of the Palestinian land overall. And I think that they are unleashing their original project of controlling and dominating the whole of the Palestinian land. And I think that someone like my father represents a threat because he is a unifying figure. The Israelis are not interested, the Israeli government is not interested in a unifying Palestinian figure who can unify all Palestinian factions and all Palestinian people towards one political vision. And the interesting thing is that his political vision is not only accepted by the Palestinian people, it's also accepted by the international community. And that's the second reason why he's a threat to them. The third thing is that he's a leader who's someone who's always looking for solutions, who's against corruption. He's always speaking out against corruption. And I think the respect and the credibility that he has from his people is why the Israeli government is not interested in having him outside and released. They want, either an extreme opponent or even a weak opponent that they can control, unfortunately.
Arab, we will talk about your father's life and politics and his beliefs about the future of Palestine in a moment. But as a son, what is he like as a dad? Paint us the picture of your family relationship.
Well, thank you so much for this question. These are, some of my favorite questions because at the end of the day, everyone looks at him as a political leader, a public figure. But for me, he's a father. He's a dad. He's someone who has left me when I was 11 years old. And I haven't been able to hug my father in 23 years, which is very difficult to go through. As a father, he's a great father. He's someone who has encouraged me to do the positive things in my life. Education. He's someone who's very attached to education. He takes it very seriously. And even though I barely see him every 2 to 3 years, whenever I see him, he would be, only impressed if I get a new certificate or a new diploma that I gained in those 2 years. He's someone who's always positive. He's always present when you sit with him. He's always looking for a better future. And I've never seen him complaining, even though he's been through some of the ugliest torture tactics by the Israelis in different stages of his life. Until now, as we speak, he is going through that. But with that being said, I've never heard him complaining. He's always positive, always smiling, always looking for a better future. But he's someone who will never give up on the Palestinians' rights, no matter what.
Arab, how is your father coping with prison life? I mean, physically and mentally, I've seen pictures of him from 20, 25 years ago. He was a stocky, very well-built man, extremely healthy looking. And I've seen recent videos of him in Israeli jails, and he looks a shadow of the man he was, but clearly a resilient, remarkable spirit still burning brightly.
He's, for the first 3 years of my father's imprisonment life, he was in solitary confinement. He wrote a book called 1000 Days of Solitary Confinement. He talked about those days and how he, encountered torture and so on. After that, he went to Hadarim prison where he stayed for 17 years. In Hadarim, it became Hadarim University because what he did is that through his lawyer, he convinced the head of Jerusalem University, where he used to already teach before he was imprisoned. He convinced him to give him the ability to give degrees to the other fellow detainees, and he started to educate them. He's, as I said, he's a very serious educator. He used to give 8 to 10 hours of lectures every single day, and he did graduate them with actual degrees, official degrees in bachelor's and master's. And we're talking about 450 with bachelor's degrees, more than 200 with master's degrees in Israeli studies. We need to remember that my father father is a fluent speaker in Arabic, English, and especially in Hebrew. He's someone who reads 10 to 12 books a month. He's always up to date, always looking for, educating himself and learning more and more about life, politics, economy, and so on. And he exercises. He's very healthy and always pushes us for a healthy lifestyle as his children as well.
Arab, can I ask how you felt seeing that footage then of the Israeli right-wing minister Ben-Gvir visiting your father in his prison cell and telling him you will not win? How did that make you feel, seeing this level of kind of public humiliation? Because that was all videoed and pumped out for the world to see.
I was in complete shock at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie. I was full of anger and rage to see my father there in that scene, and to see someone who's a bully, who's a convicted terrorist and a fascist like Ben-Gvir, who's talking openly about the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. But then I started reminding myself and remembering what my father has taught me. And he taught me that this is a very normal relationship between the occupied and the occupier, the oppressed and the oppressor. And this is what it looks like. They are going to find and to look and search for ways to break him. But my father has said years ago, and still saying, our chains will be broken before we are. And I think that my father, who has encountered so many horrible things in his life, including starting with the interrogation days when he was a teenager, when the interrogator kicked him in the groin area, telling him that a terrorist like you shouldn't be able to produce other terrorists to this world, because that's their mentality and mindset. Since then, he's never shied away from his role, and nothing has broken him. And I think that this picture will go down in history as a perfect representation to the Palestinian struggle. My father represents the Palestinian struggle, and Ben-Gvir represents and is the face of the current Israeli government.
Arab, your father has been described as the Palestinian Mandela, Nelson Mandela, the Palestinian equivalent. Talk to me about that comparison, because ultimately Nelson Mandela went through hell, same as your father is going through. He came out, he became president, he became a peacemaker, and he is remembered as one of the greatest statesmen of all time. Talk to me about the pride you must feel in that comparison.
Of course, we feel very proud. Last year, I had the privilege to go and to visit South Africa and to learn a lot from, the South African history. I had the privilege to interact a lot with the late leader who was the companion of Nelson Mandela, Mr. Ahmed Kathrada, who was one of the faces of our international campaign. And, my mother has, who's the founder of my father's campaign, who has lifted his name everywhere and took his message everywhere. When she went to South Africa, she met with Nelson Mandela. She talked about my father, the similarities there, and so on. And many historical legendary leaders support my father for a reason, such as Desmond Tutu, Angela Davis, Ahmed Kathrada himself, Jimmy Carter, and many others. And this is, of course, the work of my mother, who has taken this campaign everywhere. And I think it makes me feel so proud that my father is being compared to Nelson Mandela. And I think that my father has what it takes to unify the Palestinian people and to take the Palestinian people to a better place, and to bring, not only for the Palestinian people, but for the whole region, to bring more stability by unifying the Palestinian people under one political vision that is accepted and supported by our people.
And Arab, I want to talk about the two-state solution, which this Israeli government is so determined to kill. Your father believes in it passionately and has always spoken in favour of it, and has always described himself as a man of peace, despite Israel labelling him a terrorist. Do you think that is why Israel sees him as such a threat? Someone who is clearly very highly educated, very eloquent, can speak in different languages, in their own language, and advocates for a two-state solution. Do you think that is why he is such a threat to Israel?
100%. I think that's because, Israel, the current Israeli government is not interested in any political solution that keeps the Palestinian people on this land. They have made it very clear about that. I think that we need to be very clear that my father supports political solutions. He supports coexistence and so on. But at the end of the day, he is flexible towards the solutions that will secure independence, freedom, and living with dignity for the Palestinian people. I think that he's not attached to one solution. He understands, he's not delusional. He understands that the current Israeli government is actually killing the two-state solution by building more and more illegal settlements, by stealing more and more land, by making sure to ethnically cleanse Jerusalem, ethnically cleanse the West Bank, committing a genocide in the Gaza Strip. So he understands that they're not interested in that, but he wants to unify the Palestinian people towards that vision, and he will support any solution that would bring freedom, dignity, and independence towards the Palestinian people.
Arab, we've seen extraordinary recognition of Palestine in recent months from countries as diverse as Ireland and the United Kingdom, France, Spain, Norway, Canada, Australia. The list is growing. Almost every week another country is saying it will recognize a Palestinian state. How much confidence does that give you? How much support and encouragement will that be giving your father behind bars?
I mean, it's a great step into the right direction. We shouldn't minimize such efforts. It's great. It's something that we should all praise. But to be honest with you, in order for us to have real changes on the ground, we need this to develop into sanctions against the Israeli government. Exactly like they did with the Russian government, like they did with the apartheid regime in South Africa. I think that if they don't link that with actual sanctions on the ground that the Israeli government can feel, I don't think it will have any change on the ground. And I'm speaking on the ground. Of course, in the long run, diplomatically, it's a diplomatic win. It's a great thing to see other countries that are protecting the Palestinian state. The idea of establishing the Palestinian state by recognizing the Palestinian state is something that we welcome. It's very positive. But I hope we can see sanctions and really bold moves from the Western leaders that, I don't want to keep repeating the same thing. They have been complicit in the Palestinian suffering for decades. So it's time they pay back by at least doing the right thing moving forward.
Arab, you recently visited my home country of Ireland, and we know a lot in Ireland about occupation and famine and genocide. A mural has been unveiled to your father on Irish soil. How important was it for you to go and see this and be there for the unveiling and to meet the Irish people?
I mean, it was an honor, a true honor. I haven't felt like home except when I went to South Africa and Ireland. And I think there is a reason for that. The people that I talked with in Ireland were amazing people, former political prisoners, former and also political leaders at the moment. It was very refreshing to see the support from the people. I didn't have to explain myself. I didn't have to explain what we go through. I always say that there is a huge difference between going through oppression and supporting the oppressed. Supporting the oppressed and being pro-Palestinian is something that we really appreciate. It's an amazing movement and the shift is happening. But I mean, no one can understand the feeling of the foreign soldiers coming to your home, putting you in one bedroom, the shootings, as you mentioned, the starvation, the famine, the going to prison and so on, except for the oppressed people. So it was so refreshing. And I promised the people there that I met that I will be going for a longer tour and, telling them more about who Marwan Barghouti is and how much similarities he has with the former political prisoners who shared their stories with me. And it was an honor to meet with all of them.
Arab, can I ask, how will your father be feeling in prison when no doubt family members tell him that people are painting murals to him in Ireland? The world is listening to your story, your family's history, and his suffering and sacrifice. How much encouragement will this give him to keep going?
A lot, a lot. Trust me. We always say that the only way to feel that we're not lonely in this, that we're not alone in this struggle, is when we feel the support all over the world. And as I said, the shift is happening, and I was overwhelmed by the support there. They truly love him. They know his story. They know what he represents to the Palestinian people, and that's what we need. We need, a picture of a leader who represents the whole cause, who represents the whole struggle, and he's someone who's supported by the Palestinian people. And I think that, if I told my father this, the first thing he would say is what he always says: the credit is not to me, is to your mother. And he always reminds us as a family that my mother is the one who took his message. My mother is the one who is the real reason why he is recognized nationally and internationally, and she's the one who represented him everywhere, in Europe, in South America, in France. He has multiple 30 municipalities who gave him the honor citizenship, and many other achievements from the international campaign that she still leads until now.
Arab, can I talk about your father's trial? Israel labels your father a terrorist. He's serving 5 life sentences. Many people in the legal world had concerns over that trial. They saw a lot of red flags, and they felt that this was not a fair process, that your father was not fairly treated by the Israeli criminal and judicial system. Just spell out for our viewers around the world the concerns you as a family had about that trial.
I mean, it's a true kangaroo trial. It's not. It's a show trial. It wasn't a legitimate trial. Let me give you some background. First of all, when it comes to my father is a politician, and he never shied away from his role of leading the Palestinian people for the uprising that is called the Second Intifada. He supported the coexistence, supported the two-state solution, but then, like everyone in the Palestinian leadership, he understood that we were played in the Oslo Accords, because it was supposed to be a temporary Palestinian Authority for 5 years, and in the late 90s to turn into a full sovereign state. But what happened is that the number of settlers, instead of decreasing, it doubled. The number of checkpoints doubled. Jerusalem became more and more less Palestinians were there because of the ethnic cleansing, and so on. And this is why the uprising happened. And then after the uprising happened, they tried to assassinate him 3 separate times in 2001. You can't bring someone to justice when you already made it clear that you want them dead because they are influential in the Palestinian politics. It's very obvious and very simple. The Israeli government did not want, and the Israeli leadership at the time did not want, a Palestinian charismatic, trusted, and credible leader to be in the Palestinian politics. They got rid of Yasser Arafat, as we know, and they didn't want a continuation of that school of leadership. And that's why they made it, a mission of their judicial system to basically fabricate evidence and do all of that. First of all, he was called a terrorist by the judge at the beginning of his trial. Can you imagine, like, a judge calling someone a terrorist before they started? And the second thing is that no one confessed against him. It was denied that anyone did that. And we have an independent legal team who said clearly, after reviewing the whole trial and after being there in the court, they said that it would be impossible to say that Marwan Barghouti has been given a fair trial. And we need to remember the history of the Israeli judicial system. 800,000 Palestinians have been put in prison, most of them under administrative detention, which is illegal by international law. And the other thing is that they have a 99.7% conviction rate against the Palestinians. So you can't be the prosecutor and the judge at the same time. And of course, it was an unfair and unjust trial.
Arab, tell me, if there is a peace deal, if there is a ceasefire in the coming weeks and months, do you think your father could be released?
We're very positive and really hopeful that my father will be released. We've never lost that hope. And I will repeat what my father used to always say, which is hopelessness is a privilege that we don't have as Palestinians. And he wanted us always to delete giving up and hopelessness from our dictionary. It does not exist, and that's what we were raised on. I think that we have no doubt that the question now is not when he will be if he will be released, but when he will be released, and not if Palestine will be free, when Palestine will be free, and we have no doubt about that. We are hoping that we need to remember that the main priority for each Palestinian, every Palestinian, including me, including my family, including my father, is ending the genocide that is happening in Gaza, is ending the ethnic cleansing campaign that is happening in the West Bank, is stopping and ending the occupation, which is the root cause for every single problem that we have nowadays. If they want the cycle of violence to stop, they need to end their occupation. And then, of course, as part of that deal, we want all the Palestinian detainees and hostages to be released as well.
Arab Barghouti, you are a credit to your family. Thank you so much for an uplifting and enlightening roundtable. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable, TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.